It says
We're going
starting.
live in 3, 2,
it's live.
1.
It's live. I think it's live. Let me just check that
Mine
it is
says
live.
off air still.
Oh, it usually takes a minute. Come on now. Mine is loading, so I think we are live. Hooray! Yeah. I just tweeted it as well because I already had a tweet set up because I'm a pro. No, it just gave me the option of tweeting it, and I was like, yeah.
Yes, please.
So, hello
just
everyone.
Trying to find you.
Find me?
Like, so I can read the comments.
I'm here.
Oh yeah, well,
that's always tricky. So just let it get set up. I think it's working. I think it's got the comments. I think we're good.
Why is it whenever you search for Kitty G, it comes up with some strange man stroking a cat? Have you not done that? Oh, you probably don't search yourself.
I do search myself, but I think it knows that I'm looking for me, so it just gives me my videos.
I can't get the live thing up on your...
Elena.
Oh, is it round 3? Okay, I'm here.
Yes.
I'm here. Okay, I'm being quiet.
Round
Go.
3. Round 3. People are saying hello. Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to my channel. We are doing a live show today, as you may have guessed from the title. We have been reading, if you haven't been following, the Wellcome Book Prize books. It's a award that kind of focuses on scientific and medical books, non-fiction and fiction, and there's been quite a few different years so far. I think maybe 6 or 7, something like that. And Elena and I have been reading some of the shortlist books from the previous years to try and sort of see what we think of them. So I'm joined by Elena. I've linked her channel below.
Sorry, I've just found the comments on my
Hooray!
So I can see what's going on. Yeah, so
this is a nice casual live show. Like, I'm in my pajamas. It's very cozy.
Me too. I'm in a sleeping bag.
Yeah, it's the best way.
So
we're just going to talk about... Nice. We're just going to talk about the past 2 months, because you may have realised that we missed a month. That was mainly due to me being really ill and also having terrible internet problems. So both of those things seem to, touch wood, have been resolved for now, and hopefully we can get through all the books that we were supposed to get through in the last month, and that didn't happen.
Yeah, and tantrum 5-year-olds as well, my end.
So it's been a bit of a challenge to get this to you guys, but we've done it. We're getting there. So I think we've got, is it 5 books to talk about? Although some of them might be quite quick because we didn't finish them all. But, you know, we tried. That's the main thing. So should we talk about the books that we were supposed to read in September first, which were the books from the 2011 shortlist? So we chose 2 books and we were both going to read both of them. And those 2 books were...
that one first? Because this one was just on the shortlist, wasn't it?
Yeah. So The Emperor of All Maladies by... Never sure how you say that. You give it a go.
Oh, what, Siddhartha Mukherjee?
Yeah, see, that sounds better than I just said it.
By Siddhartha Mukherjee.
So that one, which is quite a long book. It's quite a tome. And the other one was Turn of Mind by Alice Laplante, which is a sort of more fiction, crimey one.
Which was the winner of the 2011,
that one was actually the winner, yeah. So we were both planning to read both, but we ended up only reading one each.
Yeah.
Because we DNF'd. It was the opposite one to each other, so we do have stuff to say. Let's start with Emperor of All Maladies, because...
So if I tell you why I DNF'd it briefly...
Okay, yeah, you go for that.
Because I think this is one that actually I don't generally, if I DNF, I generally get rid of the books, but I think that this is one I'm going to keep on my shelf, because I just think it was a bit dry for me, and it was a case of like wrong time, wrong place. So I just think I wasn't feeling reading something quite so heavy. I just started a full-time job after not working full-time for 5 years, and I think I was just like, whoa, there's a lot of facts in here, And I was actually listening to it on audio, and I found that after the first hour of the audio, my brain was just like switching on to something else, and then I realized I'd missed chunks of it because I've just been like busy doing so, and that's a sure sign for me that it's just not the right time to be reading it. I still like the idea of it. I still think it's, you know, potentially a book that would interest me. But I got the feeling when I heard other people talk about it, I was really excited about it. And I got the feeling when we were hearing other people talk about it, that it was really readable, really easy to read, really sort of digestible. And from the small amount that I listened to and read, I didn't find that. But you talk about it because you've actually read the whole thing.
Okay,
But that
yeah.
was my
So
reason.
I audiobooked it as well. I'll definitely say that I did not read this one at all. I just audiobooked it version, but I just audiobooked the whole thing because I decided from looking at the length that it was gonna need to be an audiobook for me to get through. And I'm quite glad I audiobooked because I definitely wouldn't have finished it otherwise. It is pretty dry. Like, I completely agree. It is very dry. It doesn't feel that readable to me. It feels like if you're really interested in cancer and you're really interested in the facts of cancer, then you're going to love this book completely. If it's something that's affecting your life, or it's something that you have a particular fondness or interest in, then it's probably going to be a book that you will really connect with. Even though I know lots of people who've had cancer and people in my family, like, it's not directly affected me enough for this to really connect with me. It is kind of like the life story of cancer. So it goes all the way back to ancient times, and the author theorizes about all of these different documents from history that could have possibly been cancer cases before cancer was like an actual word that they used to describe it. So I thought some of that was quite interesting to sort of theorize. Obviously, it is all theories, so you don't know if it's actually. I feel like there's a lot of moments in the book that I also kind of almost switched off. It is interesting, and I think some of the science is really interesting, and some of the treatments and the sort of development of the cancer and the way that he talks about the complications and everything that can develop. He talks a lot about how it actually evolves as a disease in your body as well. And I think there were some really interesting things that I didn't know. Like, I'm pretty clueless about most diseases, but I didn't know any of them. So it was interesting. But I felt like there was a lot of repetition at times as well, where he would sort of say one thing in one chapter, and then he'd go back to that thing and sort of extrapolate more information from it. But it would still sound quite similar, and he wasn't really giving enough to make you think, oh, this is an entirely new point. So, yeah.
If you were to
It was a
compare it
mixed bag
then
for me
to,
because I did find it interesting.
if you compared it to Henrietta Lacks, which is again a cancer one.
Much more readable, Henrietta Lacks.
Yeah,
Like,
okay.
so much more readable because you have that one connection to a person.
Like a human interest. Yeah.
And in this one, it's very much about like the different strains of cancer and the different genes, the genomes, the chromosomes. Like, it's very scientific, and he's obviously done an awful lot of research into it. But it kind of comes to a point where it all gets a bit overwhelming because you're just being bombarded with loads of different information. And I studied like genes and things in school, so I have a solid understanding of what sort of connect and things. I know that, but even with that sort of understanding at a basic school level, it was still a bit overwhelming at times. So, you know, I definitely like the sort of breakthrough discovery moments where he would talk about like something new being discovered in the industry of cancer and cures, and trying out different things that would have an effect on certain people. There were a lot of different examples of like samples of people trying out treatments and seeing how they went. But some of them were pretty grotesque as well. So,
See, I don't mind that so much, but I'm glad that I'm not the only one that found it a bit dry, because I think that's my problem with sometimes with the scientific non-fiction, is that it makes me feel stupid. You know, when you're just
yeah, I
like,
think,
oh, this
I
is
mean,
really not as readable as everyone keeps telling me it is.
yeah, like, I reckon kids who are in school now would be able to understand a lot more of this book than me, if that makes sense. Like, I studied genes and things in school, and we went into a lot of detail, but there's so much more that's been learned in the last couple of years, and particularly with like CRISPR, the gene editing thing. Have you heard of that?
Yes. Why have I heard of that?
Yeah,
Was that in
Rachel spoke
Henrietta
about it
Lacks?
recently, I think. Uh,
Oh, yeah. And
anyway,
oh
it's
no, they talked
basically
about it at BristolCon when we were
yeah,
in that
yeah.
panel. Yeah.
So it's basically like being able to edit genes and stuff. Like CRISPR is becoming a really big deal, and CRISPR is something that I want to read books about because it sounds fascinating.
Mm.
Um, but a lot of the stuff that's in this book kind of relates to trying to target certain genes and trying to target certain parts of affected areas and things. And I just feel like kids today are going to know so much more than me, and like it just moves really, really
Mm.
fast. So
Well, and look at me, I'm like 10, 15 years even before you. I don't think we even did genes at school. I'm
well,
sure genes
exactly. Like this is
existed,
what
but
I
I
mean.
don't
I
remember
think
studying them.
it's one of those books where if you're a kid today and you read it, you're probably going to be like, oh, okay, this is stuff I already kind of know in different
Mm.
form. And for me, like that was the case with some of it, not all of it. And for you, you're saying maybe not at all.
Yeah,
So
I don't
it's
remember
like
doing
really
anything like that at school.
generational. I don't think it's a readable book unless you have a knowledge of it, if that makes
Mm.
sense. Like I feel like some stuff in science, you're going to find it quite hard going. So that's
Yeah.
kind of my view, I suppose. I did learn a lot, but it was quite boring at times. So
What
I
did you
gave
end
it
up
three
rating this
stars
one?
in the end.
3 stars.
Three
Did
stars.
anybody
Like
else
I
in the
liked it.
comments read it?
I don't know. I don't know. They're a bit behind us, so they might tell us soon. But
Mm.
I don't know if anyone else has read it. I have seen quite a few other people talk about it and really rave about it, but
Yeah, I've seen a
maybe they
couple of
just
people
have
as
more
well.
scientific brains than I do. I don't know.
Would you read, because he's brought out a book called The Gene, would you read that?
I don't think so. I would be more interested in learning a way that I can relate to, like if that means it's through fiction or if that means it's through um, specifically focusing on one specific thing like CRISPR technology.
Mm.
I don't know. There was one that Rachel mentioned. I think it's called A Kraken Creation that she said was really, really good. So I've got that on my wish list to buy because she said it was really readable. So I'm
Is that
hoping
Rachel from Kalanadi?
from Kalanadi, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that she's not going to lead me astray and that I'll like that one. So yeah, a couple of people saying that no, they didn't read it, which I don't blame them. Fair enough.
Oh, yeah.
So that's my view on that one. But what about Alice LePlanc's one? Because
Well,
I
yeah, talk about why you didn't finish reading this one.
okay, well, I didn't get very far with this one. I must admit, it was in the midst of me reading a lot of SVFBO titles, so I had a lot of reading that I was getting done, and I was having a slightly dry run of SVFBO and getting a little bit annoyed. So I think I was maybe in a bit of a bad mood, and I wasn't giving things as long to catch my attention as I usually do. Usually I give them till about maybe halfway through. But yeah, no, this one got, I think, 20 or so pages because I was a bit mean.
You're just like,
Um,
nope.
writing style of it, I felt like it just did not gel with me at all. It's quite stream of consciousness, isn't it? It feels like a little bit
Yeah, but because the woman's
like
got
that to me. So
Alzheimer's.
yeah, and you're kind of reading it as though it's like a diary sort of thing that she's writing
Hmm.
down about her life. And I just didn't feel like it worked for me. And if that was going to be the style of the whole book, I thought maybe I better call this one quits before I get really
Yeah,
annoyed. So yeah, that's why I didn't finish it or get very far at
I,
all with
I,
it.
I can see why it would be frustrating. I think so. The basic story is about a woman. I think she's meant to be like in her 50s or 60s. She's got
Mm.
Alzheimer's and she's currently living, although most of the time she doesn't know, she's living with like a home help. They've got someone to come in and help her and who
Yeah.
lives with her. So she actually lives with her. She lives in this big house. She's quite wealthy. She was a very established surgeon and she's got a son and a daughter who have various of their own issues, but they're grown up, they live away. And it's written, you might get like a page or 2 pages of something in her day, and then you start whatever the next day or whenever she decides to start writing. And she is writing like a diary, but we're not really looking back very much. We occasionally get this look back at her, um, and her relationship with her friend who lives like down the road, who has died. And we know that from quite near the beginning, that this woman has died, and that they found her, and that her fingers have been surgically removed after death.
Yeah.
And they think that this woman with Alzheimer's has done it because she is a finger surgeon, and it seems to be her the only person that could possibly do it. But when they speak to her, she doesn't, half the time she doesn't even know her friend died. And so you get really frustrated with her, and
Yeah.
really, I've not had Alzheimer's, thankfully, touch me in a personal level, so I've never really been around someone that close with Alzheimer's. But it's really like, you sense this frustration. You just want to be like shaking her, like, we talked about this in the last page, like,
Yeah.
like, and half the time she's waking up and she doesn't know who this woman is living with her, and she's like scared. She's like, there's this weird woman, and I'm just letting her cook my breakfast because, why wouldn't you want
Because
someone to
what
cook your
else is she
breakfast?
gonna?
But and she'll disappear off somewhere, or she'll take herself off, and the whole time you're kind of questioning whether she would, sorry, whether she, it's been a long day, yeah, whether she would actually be capable of doing this, and would she even have the right frame of mind to use her tools anymore, and you're sort of questioning. And I wouldn't say that the ending was a complete surprise.
Mm.
It wasn't as big a twist as I was expecting, but I quite liked where it ended. And actually, I think I gave this 3 stars, because at the end I was like, this is quite good. I quite enjoyed it. But thinking back on it today, when I knew we were obviously going to do the show, more of it has stayed with me than I thought. And the relationships, it's very much looking at the relationship of her with her children, and how someone who is in a job that's quite high powered and is away from home very much, she's not very maternal or nurturing, and how that relationship then affects how her children treat her now, when they have ultimately become the caregivers and the people that, like, she's signed over all of her financial anything financial to her daughter, so she's got power of attorney over financial matters. And her son has some gambling problems and has money issues, and so he is constantly trying to get her to sign documents so that he can take control of some of the finances. And so that side's quite interesting, that look at relationships. And also, I think the one thing that I just, even thinking about it now, would not push it further, is this relationship she has with this best friend, who is the one that has been killed. I just couldn't understand why anyone, their friendship didn't feel real.
Yeah.
Like, and yet, you're meant to believe that they were like best friends, but it felt like most of the time they didn't really like each other. Maybe that was the point, I don't know. But
yeah, because I remember the bit I even read, like just the very beginning, was they had a fairly fraught relationship where they used to like fight a lot and stuff, I think. So
yeah, and like there's things that are said that you just think, you wouldn't really come back from saying something like that.
Yeah.
I think that I'd like to still read it. I've got it somewhere on my shelf, but I think Elizabeth is Missing is probably more my type of book around this sort of subject.
Okay.
It seems like a more relatable tale for me. I just can't relate with this. Like, she was very cold as a woman before Alzheimer's. Like, she was a very cold woman. All she cared about was her job. Her and her husband had a very odd relationship, and I think I just couldn't connect with anybody in the story. And I like to like be rooting at least for someone. Yeah. So I think it was okay, but I didn't read all the others in the shortlist. But I think that this definitely showed to me that it's interesting, the books that have won the prize for this.
Yeah.
And whether it's a case of they haven't had enough books entered, or there aren't enough books involving these topics, I don't know. But I just feel like if this is meant to be like the creme de la creme of that year,
Yeah, it wasn't a good year.
It wasn't a good year, but it was all right. It was a 3-star, like you said. But I think
I mean, we
there's
didn't
been
read all the
better.
books, admittedly, so maybe the others on the shortlist might have been better. But yeah, it really didn't appeal to me. And from what you said, I think I wouldn't have liked it. So I'm quite glad I didn't go further.
It was a bit more of a slog, but I just kept saying to myself, "This is the shortest book of the two. Just read this one."
That's true.
And it was okay, but yeah, like I say, it wasn't a winner, and it really is quite misleading, because on the front it says S.J. Watson, who wrote Before I Go to Sleep, has put compelling. I loved it. Now, I really enjoyed Before I Go to Sleep. And that is a proper sort of thrillery psychological page turner, and this I don't feel was. But there we go. So it was all right. It was a 3 stars, but nothing great.
It's not the end of the world, but yeah,
no,
not great.
Anybody else? Oh, sorry. Someone said I cracked them up with my yawn. Yeah, that's what happens when you can't get your 5-year-old to sleep, and then she wakes you up. She wakes you up at like 5 a.m. Yeah, you just you have all the patience all day with everyone else's children, but when it comes to your own, you're just like, please just go to bed now.
So those are our thoughts on 2011. Not fabulous.
Not a good year. Yeah, in wine, I would give that a miss.
Yeah, let's move on to 2012, which we chose 3 different books because we both read the winner, which was Circulation by Thomas Wright.
Did we both read the winner?
Okay, well, we'll talk more about the winner. We both were meant to read the winner. And then you had, is it Our Lady of Alice Bhatti?
Yeah, by Mohammed Hanif.
And I had Perfect People, which is this one by Peter James. So should we just go diving in with the winner on this one? Because there's not much to say on the winner.
Which one was the winner? Oh, okay. Well, I'll talk about this one. I read about 12 pages.
Oh, and me too.
I just couldn't take myself. It was so boring. I mean, it was so boring. Really it was to the point, I'm trying to find the bit that I was just like, this is ridiculous. Oh, it was just like the first 4 pages are just describing how he walked into a science place and looking for public dissection. I mean, I was expecting it to be just a bit more interesting. Yeah, just riveting, because it's an interesting idea, but it was just it's very factual. I mean, this is the sort of book that I can imagine if you're studying the circulation or you're a doctor or something, you might pick it up and have to dissect it. Yeah, it'd be one of those ones you would force to read, and maybe when you're in class you'd read like a section of it.
Yeah, and then you could discuss it with your teacher, who would explain what on earth it was all about, and then it would be more interesting.
It definitely, I mean, like one of the chapters says advances 1610 to 1625, good endeavours bring forth much good fruit. And they're just, yeah, I think maybe later on it looks like there's some essays. It looks like maybe they might.
Sure, probably it gets better, but it started out so incredibly boring that I really didn't want to read anymore. And I just feel like if a book is that boring in the opening pages, that I don't want to carry on with it, because it's not a subject that I have like a massive interest in anyway. I mean, yeah, it's interesting, and if it was well written and like have been a good read, I'm sure. And probably he has some really revolutionary ideas and like is a massive player in history. But whoever wrote this book, I don't think can write. Like, I do not think this person is a good writer. I think it was so dry and just really did not entertain at all. It just didn't offer a lot to someone who was new to the subject or just looking to get into it or whatever. So,
and it's like meant to be this biography, isn't it, of this bloke William Harvey. And yet I remember the beginning bit just thinking, it was like, and then William Harvey arrived here, and then William Harvey walks into this and did this, and
it's
then
like a 5-year-old is
just
telling you the story of their life, and like ended, this is what they did. It's so boring.
Yeah, I'm glad we agreed on that one. That was boring.
No,
that one's going back to the
Eleanor
library
messaged me
now.
and was like, this is not for me, and I started reading it knowing she'd DNF'd it and thought, oh, I'll give it a try, like, you know, I'll try it, maybe we're just going to disagree on it. But no, completely agreed straight away. I was like, oh god, I see why you have DNF'd this one. It is not for me.
And talking of DNFs,
oh yes.
I feel like I'm DNFing left, right, and centre, but I just think it's just I just hit my head. I just think I was expecting this. Now, this to me like looks like it might be a bit of a quirky one. On the back, it's talking about like it's set in a Karachi hospital. It's about a nurse.
Yeah.
She's looking for a job. I thought maybe it would be a bit more contemporary, you know.
Yeah, it looks a bit more contemporary.
And in a way, I suppose it is, but I don't know, it just lacked interest. Like, we spend ages, she's in a job interview.
It's a fiction one.
Yeah. And I don't know. I couldn't get on board with the character. I read about 70 or 80 pages of this one, I think.
Okay, so that's a fair chunk.
Yeah, and part of me thought it would be really good because I read Cutting for Stone. Ooh, who's that by? Can't remember, recently. And that's sort of a medical book and set in another country. And I found that quite fascinating. It's fictional, but I found it quite fascinating because it is set in a time where there was a lot of stuff going on politically, which is factual, but it's fictional around it. And I thought, well, this sounds good because, you know, it's set in Karachi, it's somewhere else, it's a different culture, it's the hospitals are going to be different.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it just didn't grab me. It just felt very boring, and I'm trying to look through it again now to remind myself what exactly it was that sort of
put you off. Yeah, I think it was.
It was like she was in an interview and she's just talking about pay grades. They spent ages talking about like, you know, what generation of this and this particular pediatric guy, and she wasn't expecting to have this because she hasn't got this qualification. And I was just like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Who cares? God.
Yeah, it just didn't seem.
Book, that's disappointing, really, isn't it? Because like in a non-fiction, you can kind of understand lots of facts and figures, but in a fiction, even if it is supposed to have like medical elements and such, you kind of feel like it needs to have a bit more of a compelling story as well.
Yeah, and it's meant to be like she falls in love with this lovable goon, it says on the back, who's a bodybuilder by day and a ragtag law enforcer by night. And I don't know, I think it had the potential of being a bit too spoofy for me.
Yeah.
If you know, I mean, a bit too tongue-in-cheek. I really struggle when a book tries too hard to be comical, and I think that I think there was a few things in here where it was trying too hard to get a laugh, and just it didn't work for me. So yeah, DNF. Boop.
We're whizzing through the books this time, aren't we? Well, let's finish on a high because we've got one more book to talk about. So, People by Peter James, who I think is a fairly well-known thriller writer. So this is a fiction book. It is a thriller. It does have a lot of emphasis on genes. It's around a couple called, I'm going to have to check their names because I have forgotten them. Let me just check. So they're a couple, one of them is Swedish and one's a Brit, and they go over to, I think, a random boat that's like moored off the edge of America or something. And there they go to get a designer baby.
Oh, okay.
Had a baby, a son, who they had for a couple of years, I think, maybe like, I don't know exactly how long, maybe like 5 years. And their son had this really, really rare genetic condition that meant he suffered throughout his whole life with a lot of pain. He died from this condition, and they were both heartbroken, and they really wanted another baby after a couple of years of like grieving, but they didn't want to go through the same thing. And the fact that they had these genes meant that there was a 1 in 4 chance that their baby was going to have this same condition. So they found all that out, and they went over to America, and they hear about this guy, a scientist, geneticist called Dr. Leo Dottore, who performs, I guess, like genetic modifications on the babies whilst they're still like eggs and such. And he can basically completely change genes around. So they decide they're going to go to him and they're going to get him to take out this one genetic mutation that would mean their child had whatever this illness is. But of course, that isn't quite what happens. It's really interesting, actually. I found it quite fun from the start because the guy in the relationship is a scientist. So he's actually studied point of view because he kind of explains it to his wife at times, which is good because there are things that you wouldn't know otherwise. But he's not like a professor in genetics. So he is a scientist, but he doesn't specialize in that area. So they go to this boat and they talk to this doctor and they tell him what they want, and he sort of tries to sway their decision towards one thing or another. And eventually they end up getting a baby, which turns out not to be at all what they expect it to be. And it turns out that the doctor has completely screwed them and done what he liked. And they've ended up with this baby that is completely what the doctor has ordered rather than what they ordered. So
Ooh.
We go on from there, and it gets really interesting because you follow these children and various other couples who've had the same thing done, had similar experiences with the doctor. And all of the children that have come as offspring from this program are weird. And so they try and contact the doctor, but his ship blows up, of course. So he's like dead. So they can't contact him, and they're just left to raise these children completely bizarre and really different from everyone. They're supposed to be like super advanced. They're supposed to have lots of really good genes that are going to sort of set them up really well for life. And yet things are going completely wrong because they've basically violated nature, and humans are not built to exist like this. So things just start going wrong from when they're tiny babies, and they develop really quickly, and they get into like really horrible graphic things really fast, and they are super intelligent. So there's loads of things with these kids, and for me that was the most interesting part for sure, was like learning about the kids, seeing how they developed over the years, and like finding out that every other couple had different situations as well. It was really, really fascinating from a genetics point of view. And when I said earlier that I like the sort of emotional connection to genes, I was really talking about this because this did it really, really well. Searched, I feel like he obviously does take like creative license with some of it for sure, but so that didn't work so much for me. That was a bit stupid. And it's obviously there to make this into a thriller book that's like exciting and crazy, and you know there's like this terrible who were after them. But for me it was all about the genetic story and the children and the couple, and you see from their point of view how they're really struggling to raise these kids. Interesting. So I actually I was very close to like a 4.55 stars on this because I really, really loved it, except for that one plot line. And that plot line really threw me off. So I wish it hadn't been a thriller. I wish it had just been like a fiction book with that as the key, because I think it was enough of a conflict, like trying to raise these kids. I think they're such complicated individuals and they're so different from all the parents that it makes it really interesting. But obviously they had to have like exciting stuff going on. So
I think that sounds really good. Do you think it's one that I would like?
Have I sold it to you? I think you would like it.
Maybe it's one to look out for. Perfect
because I'd
people.
say it's like a thriller. It's good fun, and I think it's quite a readable book that you want to come back to.
Is it scary?
There's like, no, I don't think so. I think it's a lot more like interesting, crazy to think about what the possibilities are, rather than like it's not scary. Like the kids do creepy things at times, but they're not scary. They're more just disturbed and like on a different field of like thought from everyone else. So it was very interesting.
I'm putting it on my list at the library now.
I would recommend it. I've never read any of this author's other books, and I know that this is kind of a bit different from what he does, according to like some other reviews I've read.
Okay.
From people who do read his stuff. And a lot of people have said, oh, it's not like his usual stuff. I'm guessing it's less some of his others, but worked really well actually. I did audiobook it, so I would recommend the audiobook.
Is it a long one?
Yeah, that's, I gave it a 4. What did I give it? 4 maybe. Yeah, 4 stars. Definitely out that one plot line, it would have been really strong. So
how many pages is it?
It's quite long. I think it's like, yeah, just under 600 pages.
It's quite a big one. Does he generally just write normal thrillers then?
I think so, yeah. And then for this one, he just sort of decided to go a bit out of his comfort zone and do, I guess, more genetic research. I think he does research into his subjects quite a lot, but this one was a bit different from what he usually does, according to the other Goodreads reviewers. As I say, I've not read any of his other stuff, so I don't know.
Would you pick up something by him again?
I think I would, but I think I would be a bit picky with it because, like I said, the gang cult, whatever it was, thing was a bit like, it's overly done. You know, it's very
cliche,
silly at times, and you think, oh, for God's sake, like this would never happen. This person would never get away with this. But it is a thriller, and I think that happens a lot in thrillers. So I guess that's kind of a thing of the genre rather than this book. But yeah, it was good fun. I enjoyed it. So
I've just added it to my library hold list.
Good stuff. Yeah, it was a quick read. I think I read it in like 2 days.
So that was definitely our winner for this month.
Yeah, of all of the ones this month, that was my winner for sure. I mean, I only read 2. It's not great, is it?
Better than me, none.
Oh yeah.
But we're hoping. Well, we know that next month is definitely going to be better because you've already read one of the books.
I've already finished one of the books. I enjoyed it a lot,
which was a very good one. So we won't spoil it. Yeah. But are we both reading the same books this month?
Well? I think so. Yeah, we're reading Far from the Tree by Andrew Solomon and Inconvenient People. And Far from the Tree is a book all about different syndromes, disabilities, and conditions that children have that really affect their families and the family dynamics of have had to adapt to the situation that they find themselves in, be that they have been raped and had a child unexpectedly, or that they have a child who's got autism, or a child who's deaf, or so on. Like there's loads
Down
of different
syndrome.
symptoms and things that they talk about. So it's all about the family dynamics surrounding each of the conditions.
And that was the winner, wasn't it? It says on the front here, this was the winner of the 2014.
Yeah, so it's definitely a fascinating read, I very much thought. The other one is Inconvenient People, and that one is about madhouses, from what I understand.
It says lunacy, liberty, and the mad doctors in Victorian England. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm kind of under the impression it's going to be a bit like looking at people who got maybe wrongfully accused or were abusing the system and stuff. I kind of hope it's about that because that's what I want it to be about. I'm not exactly certain.
Yeah, it says Sarah Wise uncovers 12 shocking stories, some untold for over a century, which reveal the dark side of Victorian upland middle classes, their sexuality, fears of inherited madness, financial greed and fraud, and chillingly evoke the black motives at the heart of the phenomenon of the inconvenient person.
It sounds all right, doesn't it? So hopefully
some interesting
it'll be good.
Pictures.
Nice.
I'm looking forward. Oh no, look at that one. Sorry to anyone that's a bit
great. Well, this one's going to be good. I've got this one on my Kindle, so I hope the pictures show up all right.
Yeah, because there's quite a lot of pictures throughout. Well, I've got both of these to read, and you've read one, but we did decide, didn't we, because we're doing this one a little bit later, that we might push back our video on this one until sort of mid to late December, and then take a month off in December, so that we will be a month behind how we originally planned. but it just gives us a bit of leeway over Christmas, and it means that we can actually like take the time to read
Christmas
them.
is busy.
Yeah, and I'm currently already reading a non-fiction book, and so I want to finish that one before I start one of these. So it's very good so far. I'm quite enjoying it.
Yeah. Ooh.
Have you read it?
No, I haven't read it. What is it about?
Is
it a science fiction, scientific? That's the word I'm looking for. Scientific one.
No, it's about a woman who's a lawyer, and she takes a summer job in a law firm in Louisiana. I haven't got very far into it yet. I'm about 50 pages, but we're flitting back and forward. So we're flitting back to her childhood and learning about why she became a lawyer and her life and growing up in her childhood. And then she's heavily into activism against the death penalty. And we're learning about this one case where she goes to Louisiana during her law, I don't know if it's her law practice or a summit job or something, and she goes to defend death row like convicted criminals. And she comes across this one criminal who she's sent to see, who has killed a young boy. And she's always been anti-death penalty, and after meeting this particular criminal, she starts to change her ideas. And I think it really shakes her, like, at what he's done, and makes her question whether perhaps I'm assuming whether the death penalty is something that but it's non-fiction, but it's written very like it's an easy read. It's very page turning. It's always written like, I would say at the moment it's more memoir than murder, but it's really good. Let me enjoy it. Excuse me, sorry. I think I can't remember who I heard this from. It might have been Mercedes. No, it wasn't Mercedes, because I asked her about it earlier and she was like, no, I didn't enjoy it, I didn't finish reading it. So
you're probably really
that tends to be what happens, but I'm really enjoying it so far. Good. But somebody definitely recommended it.
You have to let me know if that is good. I'm reading a non-fiction at the moment as well.
Oh, what for non-fiction?
I'm reading this one.
Ooh.
The Morning They Came for Us, Dispatches from Syria by
Genevieve. Is it good?
Giovanni. So far it's good. Yeah, it's horrific, as always, but I love a good horrific book. I don't know anything about Syria, or I didn't before reading this, so it kind of talks about this one journalist who goes to Syria to report on the issues of the war and like what's happening there, but while she's there she obviously meets lots of people and gets their stories, and so we kind of see snippets of each of these people, but it's really short. It's only like 200 and something pages through, and my only criticism so far is that it feels like we don't get to know the people. We just really do see like snippets, and she's sort of jumping around through time a lot, so there's no order to it. It's just sort of, this is what happened in this year and that's what happened there, and it's interesting. I like it a lot, but it wasn't structured how I thought it would be. So
just throwing you a little bit.
We'll see. Yeah, but I'm liking it, and I've got a lot of other non-fiction books that I really want to get to. I've been terrible so far with non-fiction November. I've literally just finished Far From the Tree. That's the only one. So
well, you've read more than me, because I've read 50 pages of this.
Well, Far From the Tree is like 970, so I feel like that is something at least.
That is pretty good. Yeah, I'm reading a fiction book, which I can't put down, so I'm not doing so well on the non-fiction. But if I read one book, one non-fiction is more than I read in a month. So even if I just read the one,
good then. Yeah,
I'll be happy.
Really neglected non-fiction for the last few months, so I really want to get back to it, because I had a great year last year with non-fiction.
I remember you were just like bang bang bang.
November was like amazing for me, so I really want to read quite a few this time, but we'll see. I'm getting there. I've got a few more heavy ones this year, like non-fiction historical rather than sort of memoir, so I think that's going to take me a bit longer.
I think I've got some of the ones that you read last year. Didn't you read the Escape one, which was the woman that had got out from a cult last year?
Yeah, I really like that one.
And I remember there was quite a few that you was really like.
Yeah, I had a really good month in November last year with reading things, so yeah, so it was all good. So I'm hoping to recreate some of that this.
Have you got any good non-fiction graphic novels ready for Saturday? Which is Let's Get Graphic.
I've only got non-fiction, as in like non-fiction illustrated books. That's the only thing I've got. I haven't got any graphic novel ones. So yeah, a couple of people did recommend some to me, but mostly they were sort of war-related ones, and I'm not hugely into war stuff, so I didn't pick any of them up. But
Okay.
oh well.
I've got quite a lot of new graphic novels.
In case you don't know what we're talking about, this coming Saturday is Getting Graphic, which is a readathon that Elena and I host, and it's 24 hours. It starts at midnight in your time zone and finishes at 11:59 p.m. in your time zone. So if you would like to join us and tweet us all your stuff that you're reading that is graphic or illustrated or manga or whatever, webcomics, anything that's more illustrated pictures than words counts. That's the rule I'm going by anyway. Anything that's more pictures than words is fine. Kids' books, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to be trying to like really cram through the ones I've got.
Yeah,
I'm going to try.
I'm just looking at the floor. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got 9 sort of different ones. Then I've got about 6 My Little Pony ones. And then I've got Habibi, which Mercedes gave me because she didn't like it. So she thought I might.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would like that one from what people have said of it.
Yeah, well, I didn't like his other book, Blankets, but it's such a beautiful book. I just want to like
Nor did
it.
I. I didn't like Blankets
no,
so much. I just gave it like a 3 or 2 or something. I'm not sure.
I think I was the same.
A long time ago.
So, but I have got the new I Hate Fairyland.
Oh well.
So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I need to get the next ones. I've only read volume 1, so
I think volume 2 and 3, or maybe volume 2. Yeah.
I thought I'd let them build up a bit and then get back to them. So
and I've got some Jughead to read.
Nice. I've got Monstrous Volume 2. I'm excited about that one, and Porcelain Volume 3. I think those are the 2 I'm most excited about. No, I'm saving it. Saving it for Saturday. Saturday's going to be the day of everything. I'm just going to do it all.
All the graphic novels. Are you going to get up at midnight?
Yeah, I'm going to make my boyfriend get up at midnight too. So
I think if I tried to do that to my husband, he might hurt me.
Yeah, well, see, we're in a new relationship, so I feel like this is the time where you can make that happen. But because you guys know each other too well, you can't say like, no, go away.
He'd probably say, well, you can sleep in the spare room and then you can wake up anytime you want. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I will do that.
Spare room. Good plan.
Ooh,
do
it. Yeah, I'm definitely
join me at midnight.
Maybe. I'll see.
Conk out at about 2 in the morning.
I might try and read 1. Oh, sorry, I'm so tired. This is past my bedtime. I'm not going to be no good, am I? What I could do is go to bed at like 8 o'clock and then get up at 12.
I'm going to go to bed early. That's my plan as well. Let's go to bed early on Friday. My friend was like, do you want to come out Friday? I was like, no, I'm going to bed at 7 in the evening. And then I'm getting up at midnight.
Because I've got to read
like, what for? I was like,
I'm
going to read some books.
Luckily, our friends know each other so much that they, my friends would be like, oh, Eleanor. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well. They understand.
I'm excited. I'm seeing it. Has anybody else got anything to read? I can't see if the comments are uploading. Are they uploading, or is just no one commenting?
I think no one's commenting. We've probably bored them to death with all our DNFs.
Well, hopefully this month will be better.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I think it should be. I feel like last month I was dubious of the books we had anyway. So
yeah.
Well, and the month before. Done. Whereas this month I feel more like confident that these ones will be better, especially after having read one of them. So that helps. I know one of them is better, but
and maybe in our next one we will do a little, or in the January one we'll do a little sort of halfway update on our favourite out of all of them so far and what we think of the prize.
I mean, to be honest, we are actually halfway now through the ones, so so far mixed bag.
It has been. There's been a couple of okay and a couple of...
Have you given any 5 stars? I don't think you have you?
I can't remember what I've read now. Cutting for Stone was good, wasn't it? That was one of them.
You really like that one. Yeah,
I did. I've lent
Grace
that to
Williams
a few people.
Says It Loud. Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks.
Henrietta Lacks was good.
Yeah, that one was good. And then the ones we just spoken about, which
I'd say
rubbish.
Cutting for a Stone and Henrietta Lacks have been my two standout, but I wouldn't say either of them were 5 stars, but they were my two sort of favourites so far.
Henrietta Lacks and the one I've just read. I was going to say,
I am
and I was like,
questioning my choices. I feel like maybe I should go back and like look at the options and maybe reevaluate which ones I'm picking to read.
maybe. But you're going to read Neurotribes this month, aren't you? Or you're going to attempt to start it, maybe.
I've got it on audio. I just haven't had a chance. Like I used to travel quite a bit in the car and stuff and go in places to take Matilda, but I haven't been anywhere, so I haven't put it on.
No, I know. I tend to audiobook at work a lot.
Yeah, see, I can't do that. The kids might not like it.
No, you probably get told off.
I could do it walking around the playground, maybe. No, I probably couldn't. But yeah, I definitely want to try and get that started because that's one. But if we're taking a month off,
yeah, you have the time.
Gives me a bit more time.
Yeah,
Excuse me. So
be good.
Maybe that's one for over Christmas.
Shall we end things?
Should we go to bed? Yeah, I feel like I need to go to bed.
Read the rest of my dispatches from Syria.
That's a nice bit of light reading for bed.
Dust jacket off.
That's what I've done with mine.
It isn't really. So, like, I was reading it last night, and then I was also reading Far From the Tree, and they're both. Well, the section of the Far From the Tree that I was listening to was all about children conceived through rape, and then this was all about like rape victims all over the place in Syria. And I was like, okay, I'll switch from one to the other for a bit, and it was just exactly the same. And I was like, okay, I can't listen to this. So then I put on the Book of Dust because I was like, well, we need something a bit lighter. And that helped.
For a bit of a breather, yeah. Blimey.
Just to really elevate the mood a bit. It's all getting a bit dark and horrible. I thought, I can't go to sleep with all this rape in my head.
Yeah.
No good.
Oh no.
So yeah. Anyway, that seemed to help. Hopefully I'll finish it and then read something a bit lighter.
Yeah, what's your next pick going to be? Non-fiction, do you know?
Most of my non-fiction picks are really depressing, but I've got the one you gave me, this one, How to Be a Woman.
You should definitely read that. I read that aloud loads to my husband because I was like, listen to this, it's so true, it's so true.
So yeah, I think I might go for this one next because it'll be a bit more light-hearted, hopefully, like fun and feminism.
Oh, you have to let me know if you laugh out loud.
Okay, I will. I've never read any of her stuff, so I'm interested.
I think she also narrates her own audiobooks, and I think I like her the way of speaking. So that's a good one.
Cool. Yeah, we shall see.
We shall see.
Right. Thank you all for joining us, surviving this slightly negative chat.
Yeah, we'll be much more together and hopefully with some really good books that we've read next time.
Next month. Yeah. Bye, guys.